What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, your spiritual hype man. I'm super happy to be back, and we are doing something new today with my good friend Robbie. What's up, Robbie?
What's up? What's going on with
This is actually the first one that we're doing on the beach.
Oh, nice.
So,
okay.
so you are one of one, yeah, which is exciting. So I'm here with my friend Robbie, and just remember, if you guys are listening or new listeners, obviously, because Robbie, I'm sure you got a good following. Nothing changes until you do. It's really just a concept of understanding, hey, where are we at in life? What are the outcomes we're not happy with? And then going back and really figuring out, like, reverse engineering the decision points, right?
Right.
So the thought is influence creates thoughts. Thoughts drive emotion. Emotion then drive that decision, and that decision gets us to an outcome. And so when we get to a place that we're not happy with, or these outcomes that we're really not happy with, then really we got to figure out, if we reverse engineer, what was the influence, what was the thought, what was the emotion that drove those decisions in those moments, and how do we fix them?
Yep.
All right, so Rob, thanks for visiting. Thanks for being here. We're super excited.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The first time I saw you, or I knew of you, was through the newspaper. I saw the front page over here of the Observer. They had a great story about where you've come from to what you're doing now. So would you give me a little bit of what are you doing now, and then let's take it all the way back in terms of that story.
Okay, so what I'm doing now, I'm a home builder. I build semi-custom and full custom homes, and I'm also a roofer. I have a roofing company. So that's what I'm doing currently.
Right.
That's my passion. I've been building homes. I got into it when I was 23 years old in Atlanta, Georgia, through some friends of mine. One of their dads owned a construction company, but
Cool.
I worked in construction and building homes since I was 23 years old. So I'm 49 now. I'll be 50.
You look great, bro.
I'll be 50 next month. So
really?
It goes by quick.
Happy early birthday.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Dude, you look good. You look fit though.
Yeah.
Still
Well, listen, that's part of my journey.
Okay.
Is in mind, body, and spirit. But
Yep.
So the story, it kind of came about. My son was on a basketball team years ago, and Brian, the owner of the Observer, was the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say my life wasn't put together, very well back then. There was addiction and alcoholism and stuff, going on in my life, and it wasn't like I was showing up to games like under the influence or
Right.
like making crazy fool of myself, but like he could probably tell there was something a little off. And great Christian guy, and it was always super nice to me and stuff like that. And then we ran into each other fast forward, almost 10 years later, we ran into each other at the Home Builders Association, which I'm now the current president.
El Presidente.
El Presidente 2025 of the Home Builders, Flagler Home Builders Association.
Hey everyone, Wilson here, your spiritual hype man, and just a quick shout out to our sponsors, Boney Booty Beach Rental. Thank you guys for sponsoring this episode and providing the chairs. If you guys need chairs and don't want to lift a finger, check out BoneyBootiesBeachRentals.com.
So we ran into each other there, and he was asking me how my son was doing, and he said, man, you look completely different than you did when I saw you last.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I was a little bit of a mess back then. And he said, well, tell me what's going on, what happened? And I said, well, unfortunately, my alcoholism, it took me into homelessness. When I was 40 years old, I was homeless on the streets of Daytona.
That's crazy.
I'd find places to crash and stuff, but I was virtually homeless.
Damn.
10 years ago.
Damn.
And now I'm a home builder and a roofer, and
Homeless to home builder.
So the story,
Right.
he I guess it kind of clicked with him, and then he called me. We ran into each other, a different time, short period later, and he said, I think this would make a great story.
Yeah.
Homeless to home builder, and I said, man, that's got yeah. I said, he goes, would you mind sharing your story? It's going to be out there in the newspaper, and everybody's going to see this. Are you okay with that? And I said, for me, seeing people succeed and getting, from such a low point in their life to pulling themselves out of that, and of course with me and the fellowship I belong to, to keep it, anonymous, but like the fellowship I belong to is a 12-step program of recovery. And when I see people tell their stories and put it out there, it's inspiring, and it helped me in the beginning to see people in such a great place in their life that were succeeding and doing well. I didn't think I could ever get there. But when you have people that are in front of you that have done it, and that proven that it works, the 12 steps work. And if you, do the work and you put, and you're willing, willingness was huge for me. Because I was never willing at the beginning. But I, luckily, I'd had enough.
And that's that. Like, I feel like that's where change really starts taking, right? Like, I feel like there's three levels of change. One, we're unaware of it, right? So we keep doing whatever we're doing. Two, we then become aware and we're like, something's got to change, but we continue doing those same things. And then you finally get to the point where you've had enough. It's almost like a relationship. Like when you break up, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel this way anymore. And then it sort of pushes you to get to that next level of actually making those change. Now, I've also felt that like between level 3 and level 2, there's a back and forth.
Right.
You don't completely cross over to level 3 where you're fully changed in like a day almost.
No.
I feel like there's, right, and I feel like the best part of it is like if you can identify that it takes longer from going to 3 to 2, then you're on the right path.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, and the fact of the matter is you have to get to a place where your consequences, for me, my consequences added up way much faster than the solutions.
Right.
And I was, found myself at just a point that everything that I was doing was destroying everybody around me, including myself. Exactly. And
that feeling, right?
It just it was like quicksand.
Yeah.
The harder you fight against it, the lower you sink down.
Yep.
And until you're willing to make a change, and willingness is key. If you're not willing to actually try to make a change, but that's where your your decision making.
That's right.
And a big part of it is we just we understand we have a problem and we decide to do something about it.
Yep.
Once you make that decision, then you put the work in, and things start getting better.
Right.
That's the magic part about it.
That's right.
You start putting the work in, and things start getting better slowly but surely. And once you start getting those aha moments, those little milestones that you didn't think you could get to, and you realize, man, you know what, this is working.
Yep. And these little reinforcements, right? Where else?
I call them God shots.
God shots. I like that.
Okay.
Like
that. So God shots. And what that is for me is I have a higher power, and I call him God.
Yeah.
And what that means to me is I know at the end of the day, the biggest thing, and when I work with new guys and I tell them this, I said, listen, you don't have to believe in God. You just have to believe that you're not God. Okay, let's start
That's
there.
Valid.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as long as you're not running around thinking you're God of everything, and that and you believe that there's something bigger out there that's in control.
Yeah, I love that.
You know what I mean? And that gives us the grace to let go of us trying to run the show.
Trying to control everything.
When I try to control everything,
mayhem.
It just made a big mess.
Yeah.
But when I give it up and let it go, it's amazing.
Yeah.
That things just have a way of working out.
Yeah, especially if you have the right intention. Right?
Exactly.
If you have the right intention, the right energy, or the right really it's intention to what you're doing. As far I feel sometimes they're like, even though because I'm very similar as far as, and I'd like to go a little bit more deeper into like how it started and how you got there, because I was very similar. Like I would have situations where I would put myself in these situations with alcohol and things like that, and I had a lot of pent up anger from like before, right? Things that I didn't work out, that I didn't work through, and then all of a sudden it would boil, and then everybody would get it around me. Like the closest people to me would see the effects. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I realized that it just, the more I got to the feeling of waking up and feeling like shit, like feeling like I can't believe I treated people like this, the closest to me, the more that reinforced me to be like, okay, I need to do something different, and really start evaluating some of these things. What was I putting myself in with drinking, alcohol, the whole nine. So for me, it took time to get there, but it was really the I guess the thought of losing the people closest to me, because I've lost a lot of relationships through that, like not being the right person in the right situation, and then causing grief to everybody else. Like I've lost tons of relationships through that, and that really was the one that was like, okay, the catalyst to be like, dude, you got to do something, because it ain't happening, it's not working.
Yeah, especially when the common denominator is us. That we're the,
exactly.
When you go into a room and everybody seems like an asshole, you're probably the asshole.
You're the ass. Right, that's right.
So,
that's right.
like, I've heard that many times too, and and the pain becomes great enough, you change.
Right.
There's so many analogies to that. It's like the lobster, and its shell, it outgrows its shell, just like the crab does too. Like, once they outgrow it, it becomes painful, so they shed it and they grow a new one.
Right.
And you start over. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't know how to do that. Which, when I got into the fellowship I belong to, they help you. Like you don't do it by yourself.
Right.
Like, this isn't a solitude. This isn't a one-person show. This is people that reach out and help you, and they don't want anything from you.
Right.
That's the beauty of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But basically, where it started for me was at a young age, and stealing beers or sneaking beers from family gatherings and stuff like that, and neighborhood kids had some alcohol one day, and I know I drank quite a bit of that and got sick, and I just my first thought was, oh, that's terrible, I'm never doing that again. My first thought was, I can't wait to do that again. I love the feeling it gave me, because it makes you feel different. It makes you feel like you're the person that you always wanted to be.
Right.
Bigger, faster, stronger, funnier, sexier, whatever. You're everything. Like, everything that you thought you were lacking in your life and your personality, alcohol changed that for me.
Wow.
And it made me feel like I was better.
Right.
All right. And then eventually that stops working. You don't feel better anymore. And it eventually takes over, physically, mentally, everything. It takes over your entire life.
So were you like drinking early on as a consistently sort of thing, and how did it get to that?
So in high school, I was drinking every weekend. It wasn't an everyday thing. It was like we all went out, and a bunch of my friends, I grew up in Atlanta. We all got fake IDs at a young age, and it was a weekend thing. Yes. Every single weekend revolved around alcohol.
Yeah, and I feel like that was part of the culture too. I feel like certain things are generational, like as far as like what is okay.
Absolutely. And we didn't grow up any different. I mean, I saw family and everybody else partying it up on the weekends, and that's just a normal thing. It was just a normal thing to do. But when you have the alcoholic gene, it gets a hold of you, and it doesn't take long to cross that threshold. And it even says in our literature, at some point, alcoholics cross that threshold, that invisible line where we're beyond human aid. We are no longer, doctors can't help us, psychiatrists can't help us. It's very well documented that there is no solution to alcoholism other than a spiritual overhaul from the inside out. Right. We got to change from the inside out. But to go back in the beginning, it was an every weekend thing. And then, it was like work hard, play harder. That was my motto for a long time, 2 decades, 20 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And by the end of that second decade, when I was about 35, 36 years old, I'd gotten in trouble, 3 DUIs in 5 years, and had, I was facing some jail time, and was fortunate that the case ended up being a mistrial. But I was faced with so much consequences, and I still didn't see I had a problem. It was just I was unlucky. The cops shouldn't have been there at that time, or whatever reason, and the legal problems added up. And then the family, like, it put a strain on the marriage, put a strain on my parents, put a strain on everybody involved. And I always manipulated and manipulated my way to make them think that I was okay. It was just a string of bad luck. I got this. And I convinced myself that I had it, that I could fix me. Well, you can't fix a broke mind with a broke mind.
Right, that's right.
You can't.
That's right.
You have to, you really, like you were saying, once you internalize something and you take a hard look at yourself in the mirror and you understand that you're the problem. Yeah. There's nobody left to blame.
Yeah, that's a huge, like, awakening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's not a fun awakening.
Right.
Nobody wants to face that.
Right.
Nobody wants to admit defeat.
Yeah.
Least of all me.
Right.
And when you're an alcoholic, you're stubborn.
Yeah. Like,
you're stubborn. You don't want to change. You want everybody else to change around you.
That's right.
To suit your lifestyle.
Right.
And so, as those 2 decades went on, the drinking got worse. The using got worse.
Damn, even after the DUIs and the
oh yeah, no, I got 2 more after that, total of 5 lifetime.
Jeez.
And but they were spread out enough to where I didn't lose my license forever.
Right.
Luckily, but those consequences still. I mean, the DUI schools, the drug and alcohol classes I had to attend, all the stuff, the days and nights in jail. That none of it deterred me. And it says in my story in the paper, I eventually started turning yellow, and
your liver?
My liver started failing, and the doctors gave me less than a year to live.
That's crazy.
And there was a lot of low points, and then I had some tests done by my doctor liver specialist, and he called me one day after my blood work came in, and he was like, hey, where are you? He was in a panic. It wasn't like a normal, and it was the doctor. It wasn't his office manager. It wasn't a nurse. It was the doctor. And he goes, Robbie, where are you? And I said, well, I'm on my way to work. He goes, no, I don't even know how you're on the phone right now. I don't know how you're not in a coma or dead. You need to get to my office or the hospital immediately. And I said, well, I'm like 10 minutes from your office. I can come over there and talk to you. He's like, get here. So I pulled in, and there's an ambulance in the parking lot with the lights on, and the back doors are open. And
that's crazy.
His office manager was out. I had become friends with her. Super sweet girl, and she's crying. He's in the parking lot. She's standing next to him. She's crying, and I walk up, and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, I need you to get in the ambulance. I need to take you to the hospital immediately.
That's crazy.
And I said, well, no, I'm not going. I'm going to drive myself. And the reason I drove myself is because I had a full liquor drink in my truck that I wanted to finish.
Robbie.
And
that's crazy.
That's where my addiction had taken me.
Damn.
So I drove myself to the hospital.
Damn.
And walked in the emergency room. I'd called my ex-wife. We were already divorced at the time. And I called her and told her, hey, man, I don't know what's going on, but they want me to go to the hospital. Just letting you know. I don't know what's going on. I got to the hospital, I checked in, and within an hour, I'd slipped into a full alcoholic coma.
That's crazy.
I woke up 2 weeks later.
That's crazy, Robbie.
With 5 IVs in each arm. All my family was there. They brought my kids in to say their goodbyes, and they didn't know if I was going to wake up or not. I woke up, and my family put me in rehab for 30 days. I went to rehab for 30 days, got out. Within a week, I was drinking again.
Damn.
That's how strong my addiction was.
Damn.
And nothing was stopping it. I could not stop. I did not know how to stop. So they brought in my current sponsor right now in the fellowship I belong to. He came in, and my parents had heard about him through the neighborhood grapevine, and of the neighborhood they lived in, people reached out and said, hey, he's in this fellowship, maybe he can help your son. And he came in and took one look at me and told my parents, your son is dying, he needs help. And he would bring me to meetings and try to introduce me to the guys around, and I just wasn't ready.
Right.
I just kept going in and out of recovery. And I didn't have enough consequences. And in that time, I got my 5th DUI, high-speed chase on a Harley.
Damn.
Through St. Augustine with a helicopter.
Damn.
And
Robbie.
It's just part of my story,
damn,
man. It's and you want to hear some more God shots. That what happens. Is the
hold that for one second. Let me double check. Hold
okay.
that.
What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, your spiritual hype man. Super happy you watched this episode. To listen to more episodes, go to www.ncuyd.com.
Wilson here, your spiritual hype man, and our good friend Robbie. We just finished up an episode. What a tremendous story, Robbie. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Man. What a crazy, crazy story. It's like 50 years of stories in like maybe 30 minutes. That was a 40, 45-minute show. So if you haven't listened to it, go ahead and listen to it. We also want to thank our sponsors from the chairs, Boney Booties Beach Rentals here in Palm Coast. If you're looking to get some awesome chairs like this, cool umbrella, and not to do any of the work, reach out to Boney Booties Beach Rentals. These guys are awesome, and they're doing big things here in Palm Coast. If you're looking to get some homes.
Homes, custom homes, semi-custom homes, and roofing.
That's right.
Yep.
Reach out to Robbie. He knows what he's doing. He's got a great team here in Palm Coast. Where do you serve?
So Flagler, Volusia, and St. Johns County. So I have Integrity Homes USA and also First Coast Roofing.
Let's go. You guys know where to get them. We'll see you guys on the next one. And don't forget, nothing changes until you do. Peace.